When you try to skip steps 1 through 99 and go straight to 100, it reinforces, at least in my experience, the belief that I couldn't do something, you know? And that in the end doesn't do anything for the anxiety or the fear, but feed it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope everybody is living their best life, and if you aren't, please do something today to put you on the path of living your best life. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I'm personally healing my anxiety, specifically my driving anxiety, in the hopes of helping anybody that comes across this video. Okay, so disclaimer, I'm not a health professional or a licensed therapist, so please don't take this video as any medical advice. I'm just sharing what has helped me thus far on my journey in the hopes of helping anybody that it resonates with. So if it resonates with you, take it with you. Of course, use your discernment to see what resonates and what doesn't. And whatever doesn't resonate, just leave it. So as an introduction to my fear, I have a driving anxiety. So it got to the point where even just thinking about being behind the wheel made me have a full-blown panic attack. I would cry. I would see black dots in my vision. I couldn't breathe. Stuff like that. And it got worse over the years until I guess I hit rock bottom this year, and I got to that point where I was afraid to even think about driving and think about sitting behind a wheel. And I feel like what caused that fear for me is just again, perfectionism as well as the fear of failure, just mixing those two together. Because in my mind, even one imperfection or one accident, one mess up could literally cause a fatality. It could hurt somebody, and I never wanted to do that. I never want to do that, God forbid. And that just kind of fed my fear within me, the fear of accidentally hurting someone, the fear of not being perfect behind the wheel. And that led me to, I guess, more self-doubt, more self-criticism, and just more fear. So this year when I hit like that rock bottom of my fear where just thinking about driving would cause me to have a full-blown panic attack, I said enough is enough, and I decided to take action towards actually healing instead of coping with my anxiety. So the first thing I had to learn is how to be patient with myself. In the beginning especially, I feel like it's very easy for us to hop, skip, and jump around the first 20 steps and just try to skip to the ending, because in our mind we want to rush things, you know? And like, especially if you view your fear as an irrational fear. So it's like an irrational fear is like you're afraid to drown, so you don't go too deep in the water if you know you can't swim. That's a rational fear, you know, that's just keeping you alive. But in my mind, having the fear of driving was an irrational fear because I can control the vehicle. I have my hand on the wheel. I have my feet on the pedals. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you have an irrational fear, it can be very easy for you to try to tell yourself to just toughen up and just take the fear head on, or jump to step 100 when you haven't even went past step 1. You know what I mean? That in the end, I learned does more harm than good. Instead of actually curing the problem, which my mind was thinking, like if I was just to say,
okay, forget it. I know I'm afraid to even think about sitting behind the wheel, but let me go to the store real quick.
You know, instead of actually sitting down and taking the slow steps and jumping straight to 100, it's just going to cause more anxiety, more fear. It's going to feed that thought that I can't do it. That constant thought in your head that you can't do it, you can't do this, da 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 da. Just all that negativity within. When you try to skip steps 1 through 99 and go straight to 100, it reinforces, at least in my experience, the belief that I couldn't do something, you know? And that in the end doesn't do anything for the anxiety or the fear, but feed it. By reinforcing that idea, it just kept on telling me that I wasn't strong enough to even overcome it or even get on the path of overcoming it. And also, doubt is just part of the journey. So if you feel like you're going along healing the wrong way because you're doubting yourself, don't be so negative towards yourself or so mean. It's perfectly normal in the beginning and throughout your whole journey of healing your anxiety and healing the things that make you afraid to feel doubt, because for so long you've been telling yourself one thing, one negative thing over and over and over again until it's been solidified as a belief. It's going to take some time to deconstruct that belief and begin feeding yourself something else that you actually want. Okay, so for example, in the beginning of my journey of healing my anxiety, I was extremely judgmental towards myself because I felt like my doubt was holding me back from becoming the person I want to be and healing my anxiety once and for all. Instead of looking at doubt as a hindrance on my journey, I began looking at it as a test. Am I going to react to this doubt when it comes up in the same way as I've done before, or am I going to offer a rebuttal and counteract it with something positive, you know? The second thing that's been helping me along this journey is just being very, very, very slow in this process. So in the beginning, of course, I said the first part is being kind and patient with yourself. Do not allow time or this idea of time mess with your head in the way that, oh, you're feeling like you're running out of time or you feel like you're behind schedule. Your path and your journey is not going to be the same as everybody around you. Everybody's journey through this life is different, and that does not exclude any anxiety or fears that you have. Even if you view them as irrational or not practical, it's not really yours to judge like that. It's no reason to judge yourself over your own life journey, because your journey is going to be different from everyone else. So stop all the comparisons, especially stop comparing your own time with this idea and concept of time that you have in your head about where you need to be in this life at a certain point in your life, you know? So in the beginning, I started off extremely slow. This was not even 6 months ago where just the thought of going behind the wheel was causing me so much anxiety and so much panic to the point where I was crying and almost blacking out, like seeing black dots in my vision, hard to breathe. Anybody that's had a panic attack knows what I'm talking about. Sweating, but you ain't hot. And like, it was very discouraging in that moment, and even just thinking back on it, because the panic attacks I experienced just thinking about sitting behind the wheel, not even thinking about driving, just thinking about sitting behind the wheel was the exact same that I felt while behind the wheel before, multiple times during a panic attack. That was very discouraging. It felt as if like this was just my life. I was beginning to accept, like, okay, maybe I'm just never going to be able to drive. Maybe this just isn't for me. Maybe I'm just going to have to find a workaround over the things I want to do, over the things I want to experience in life, because driving is just going to hold me back, you know? And I'm the type of person, I don't feel safe taking Uber and Lyfts. I'm going to keep it $1.50. I feel like it would be different if I was a dude. And I'll be like, okay, I just not going to drive. I'm just going to have other people drive me around. But that's serious. I do not trust folks like that to be just hopping in the back of their car by myself. I'm not doing that. So I was like, I can't really say, oh, I'm just not going to drive, because in my mind, it's kind of putting a burden on other people, trying to have to always catch a ride, trying to always ask somebody, oh, can you drive me here? Can you drive me there? Da, 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 da. It made me feel more, I don't know, less of a burden just to stay at home. So I've really adopted a homebody lifestyle. And it's fine. Like, I like being at home. But I want to actually experience life. You know, I want to take in-person dance classes. I want to go out to eat. I want to hang out with folks that I trust. But I feel like I don't know, I felt in my mind, we're tied into this belief of the anxiety of driving and the belief that I can't do it. I've also fed into that, like, that burdenhood. So I don't want to be a burden on anyone, so I'm just not going to participate in anything. I'm not going to include myself in anything in order to take out that stress on other people, you know what I mean? So since I was having full-blown panic attacks, just thinking about driving and just thinking about all that negative things that I fed into that belief system, all that negative things that I fed into that fear, I decided to just start off extremely slow. So to start off, I would just journal about it and ask myself, why do I feel like this? I would begin thinking about driving, visualizing it, and again, just thinking about it, visualizing will cause me to have so much anxiety on my heart and so much panic on my heart. So I'll just write about it. I'll just get out all my feelings through journaling, where I felt safe and where I could just be honest with myself. And I did that for about a month or so until I felt myself feel a little bit more calm just by the thought of driving. I didn't even go behind the wheel or just sit behind the wheel until I got to the point where if I could just think about it and just think about driving without actually putting myself in a position where I have to drive, I could comfortably write about it. And it could be different for you. You could speak about it. You could talk to yourself in the mirror if you're not the writer type. You could meditate on it, walk about it. I don't know. Anything that doesn't put you in the place of your fear at first, but you can still visualize it and work through it that way. That's what I recommend starting off with if you were as bad as I was 6 months ago when it comes to your fear. And then a key thing to remember is that when you do this and you visualize yourself being afraid, make sure that, oh, I'm sorry, I keep on shaking this. I have my computer right here with my notes and I keep on shaking this thing. So sorry if it feels like an earthquake on that side. A key thing to remember as you're visualizing your anxiety and visualizing your fear, feel the feelings. You're safe. You're in your room. You're in your home. You're somewhere where you feel safe enough to be vulnerable with yourself. Allow yourself to feel the fear. Allow yourself and allow those feelings to flow through you. So I view feelings as water. If you don't allow water to flow through a river, if it isn't released through evaporation or by taking some water out, it's going to continue piling and piling up, especially if you're thinking about a river flowing into a dam. If that dam has not been released and the water hasn't even evaporated just slightly, or people haven't taken any water out of the dam, it could cause structural damage to the little blockage for a cement dam or a bricked up dam, however they do it, okay? If it doesn't have any form of release, whether through evaporation or somebody taking some water out, it can just pile and pile and pile up until eventually it bursts through. And I feel like in the beginning, what I would do, I would suppress my own emotions, suppress those feelings, and not allow any sort of release in the form of my anxiety, and just allowing myself to feel the fear and feel the anxiety. And that just continued to pile and pile and pile on until I couldn't handle it anymore. Just the thought of driving caused me to feel full-blown panic. So once I felt more comfortable just sitting down with myself and journaling and doing shadow work, I began to go into the car and sit behind the wheel for about 30 minutes a day. Every single day or every other day. And in the car, I would either just sit in silence and just look at myself behind the wheel. I would listen to guided meditations about curing anxiety, specifically healing driving anxiety. I would listen to affirmations, and honestly, I would just sit there in a meditative state and just look at myself behind the wheel.
If I want to, I will. Bitch, I want to, I will. If I want to, I will. If I want to, I will, bitch.
And the most important thing, again, I allowed myself to feel the feelings of anxiety. Just working up the courage to go out into the car and sit behind the wheel itself caused me panic. I knew I wasn't going to be driving off the driveway. I knew I wasn't going to even be driving around the neighborhood. But just sitting behind the wheel caused me panic. It caused me anxiety. It caused me fear. And instead of suppressing it like I had before, and that obviously didn't work, it just caused more problems for me, I decided to just feel the feelings and just allow them to flow through me and let them go. I will allow myself to cry. I will allow myself to get mad at myself for not pushing myself hard enough. I will allow myself to feel as if I was running out of time, as if I was behind on schedule. Because again, I'm 20 years old, and I don't know, ever since like I turned 16, 17, I kind of felt behind everybody else. Like, oh, I should have got my license at 16, you know? Because I got my permit at 15. I just couldn't work myself up to go take the driver's test at 16. I finally got my license, though, at 20. But even after I got my license, this is when I kind of hit the rock bottom stage and was just still extremely fearful of driving. It feels like as soon as I got my driver's license, that's when it kind of hit that bottom stage where I was too fearful to even think about driving. Because I got my license in May, and then when I hit that rock bottom state, it was around August of this year, August 2021, and I got the license May 2021. But yeah, I would just allow myself to feel mad at myself. I'll allow myself to cry. I will allow myself to just feel all those emotions, because I know that if I held on to them, I would still be in the same place, if not even in a worse position than I am. That fear could have bled onto other things. Instead of having just a fear of driving, I was extremely fearful of having the fear of even being in a car. You know, there's some people that are like that. And if that's what you're dealing with, I pray for healing along your journey, and I really do hope that you overcome it. And I know that you can. You just have to see it for yourself. You're strong enough. That's what I was mostly afraid of. I was afraid of this anxiety bleeding onto other things. So instead of just having a driving anxiety, I was afraid that it will cause me to have social anxiety, because if I'm not able to socialize and not able to put myself out there because I don't go anywhere, can't that lead to like social anxiety? Can't that lead to just being afraid to even speak to people, you know? That's what my brain was leading down. It was leading down that path. I was afraid that I'll be too scared to even be in the passenger side of a seat or even in the back seat. Because if I was afraid to drive a car, what's the point of being not afraid of sitting in one? But instead of holding on to those feelings and emotions, I allowed myself to feel them in the moment and then allowed them to pass as they wish to pass. I didn't rush the process. I didn't rush anything. If I felt like I made no progress one day, I wouldn't allow that to affect how I felt about myself the next day. I knew that every single day was just another time and another opportunity for me to overcome and work through my anxiety and fear. And again, after I finally felt comfortable just sitting behind the wheel, no tears, no panic, no anxiety, none of that, I decided to begin testing myself and challenging myself. So the first little challenge that I had was just backing off the driveway. If I could just back off the driveway and then pull back forward, I felt accomplished for that day. And I would celebrate my wins. I wouldn't just say,
Okay, well, good for you, girl. Like, maybe you should try something different. Like, I don't know why you're getting so happy about driving a little bit further back off the driveway and just pulling forward. That's not a big deal.
Instead of treating myself like that, I actually celebrated my wins and was like, good job, Raven, good job. Because that's the only way that you can truly grow. If you celebrate every single milestone that you hit and you allow yourself to be challenged a little bit every single day, then that's where real growth takes process, or real growth happens. And then also, this is bleeding back into the first thing. I was very kind and very patient to myself. So if I challenged myself to go around a cul-de-sac and I didn't feel up to it that day, I wouldn't force myself to. I'll say, okay, I'm not feeling up to it today, but maybe tomorrow. If I'm blessed enough to see tomorrow, then maybe I can try tomorrow. Maybe I can try the next day. And then just continue that cycle. But when I did find the courage in myself to go around a cul-de-sac, go around the neighborhood, and even go a mile or two down the road, I would allow myself to do that. I wouldn't hold myself back and be like, okay, what if? No, as soon as I felt that courage, I would just allow myself to go. And then most importantly, even as I found that courage, if I felt myself begin to panic, I would just breathe through it. Again, I wouldn't force myself to do anything or take too many steps forward. But when I did find the courage on those days to go around the cul-de-sac, go drive around the neighborhood, all that, I allowed myself to do that. And when I felt the anxiety and felt the panic come up, because it did come up, I breathed through it and just said, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. I repeated the affirmations that I continuously repeated while I was just sitting behind the wheel and healing my anxiety that way. And I just repeated those in my mind as I was going. So I started this whole progress in August, and now I can finally say that I can drive comfortably behind the wheel for about 2 miles without feeling any anxiety. And again, and I know it's pretty slow. I know it's a very slow process, but eventually I know that I can do it. I know that I will be fully healed from this anxiety once and for all. And I can even drive a couple of more miles with somebody in the car without feeling too much anxiety. But that's just still something that I am allowing myself to work through and work on. I still feel a little anxious while driving behind the wheel, especially by myself, but I know that that's all part of the process, all part of my progress, and I can still feel that shift within me, and I can feel myself healing. I can feel myself getting better. I'm just continuing on with that little cycle of just challenging myself a little bit every single weekend, and I'm just allowing myself to feel those feelings, and I'm not pushing too hard. One thing though I can say is that I still get extremely nervous the day before driving, to the point where sometimes I would stay up all night and kind of self-sabotage, because recently I made it a little goal of myself to repeat the same thing that I did the week before. So what I did the week before, I drove about 3 miles, 2.5 to 3 miles somewhere, and I drove back. I felt happy about it, I celebrated, and I took pictures, all of that. And the next weekend I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. But the day before I decided to do that same thing, I was just extremely nervous to the point where I stayed up until like 5 a.m. And when I practice driving, especially on the road, I wait until it's like the weekend, early mornings. And since I stayed up till the early morning, I didn't really think it was possible, or at least I said to myself it wasn't possible for me to practice today, so I self-sabotaged. So again, it's not, as you are beginning to heal and as you're going along this journey, it's not going to be perfect every single time that you want it to be perfect, and you are going to slip up some days, but just know at the end of the day, you're still healing, you're still working through whatever anxiety you have. Just think of when you hit your rock bottom, or when you hit your tipping point of anxiety, and think back about how bad that felt, and then compare it to how you are now, and that's when you can really see how far you've actually come. Okay, so in conclusion for today's video, I'm still on the journey of healing my anxiety and healing my driving anxiety, but I do hope that the things that I share with you today can help you along your journey. The main things I want you to take from this is to always be patient with yourself and be kind, because it took however long for you to build up these belief systems and build up that fear and anxiety towards whatever you're working towards. If it's the same thing as me driving, it took you potentially years, months, just an immense amount of time to build up that fear and then build up that anxiety. It's going to take you some time to get over that as well. But honestly, don't even think about the time aspect. Don't even worry your head about the time, because us as humans, time itself is very hard to explain, and it's very hard to even think of and imagine. It can be seen really as an illusion, because you're judging your time schedule, or you're judging your journey based on somebody else, and that's going to do nothing for you but cause you even more fear and anxiety. So again, be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. Your journey, again, is not like anybody else's. It's very specific to you, very specific to what you need to grow from and what you need to do. Know that you can heal. Again, like I said, before I hit the rock bottom stage, I kind of just accepted the fact that I was afraid and was going to be afraid for the rest of my life. You don't have to accept that as your reality. If that is not something that you want for yourself, you do not have to accept it, and you can choose something different. Understanding it is possible for you to heal, and you can begin healing. It might not happen as fast as you may think it should. It might not happen as slow as you may think it should. Who knows? Just know that at the end of the day, you can heal. And also, as you're healing yourself, don't suppress or try to cope with your emotions. Allow yourself to feel those emotions. Don't allow anybody to tell you what you should or should not feel like. Again, like I said in the beginning of the video, use your discernment. If somebody is criticizing you and it's not constructive, and you feel in your spirit it's not constructive, it is going to do nothing for you but to cause you even more. Okay, so my camera shut down for a second because the internal temperature was too hot. But back to what I was saying, if somebody is trying to give you constructive criticism and you feel in your spirit that it's not constructive, let it go. Don't take it with you, and just allow yourself to only take with you what resonates, you know? So as you're healing, don't suppress or cope with your emotions in any way, shape, or form. Allow yourself to feel those emotions. Allow yourself to write about it, talk about it. If you feel comfortable enough to share it with somebody else, talk about it with someone else. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I'm not a licensed therapist, but if you feel like you need to seek out the help of a licensed therapist, go ahead and do that. Whatever you need to do for part of your healing journey, it's going to be specific to you. So don't allow anybody else to tell you exactly what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, they'll never be you and they'll never be able to feel what you feel. So with that being said, allow yourself to feel those emotions and allow yourself to work through it however way you see fit. And then the next point that I hope that you guys take with you from this video is that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to have days where you feel off. It's okay to have days where you doubt yourself, and it's okay to feel as if you're not making any progress. It's okay. It's okay to have little slip-ups. It's okay to have days where you don't feel your best when it comes to healing this anxiety. Because at the end of the day, we're only human. Everything that we feel and everything that we experience in this life is all just part of our human journey. So allow yourself to be okay with messing up. Allow yourself especially to forgive yourself when you mess up. Because I know a lot of times when I feel like I messed up or I introduced doubt into my life, I feel so guilty about it. I'm like, okay, dang, I just blocked that blessing, you know? But instead of looking at it like that, look at it as a way of just bouncing back from it. Because we are going to have times where we doubt ourselves. We are going to have times where we feel like we're not making any progress. But the important thing is what you're going to do afterwards. Are you going to take that at face value and just be like, okay, I can't do it? Or are you going to allow that to be a test and just try to offer up a positive rebuttal? Are you going to begin saying more affirmations to offer up even more positive rebuttals? This little braid keeps on bothering me. It keeps on falling on my lash. But at the end of the day, just allow yourself to take it as slow as you need to as you're healing yourself and healing your anxiety, just like how I am. And yeah, just, I guess, document your own progress. So then on days where you do feel doubt and on moments and occasions where you do feel like you can't do it, you can look back and just be like, remember when I was this way and now look at me. Even if it's something as simple as, or not something as simple, something as drastic as feeling as if you can't even go behind the wheel without crying, to actually being able to comfortably sit behind the wheel. Not even driving, just comfortably sitting behind. That is a lot of progress, and a lot of people, they don't see it as such, but I need you to begin seeing it as such. And of course, my situation is not going to be the same as yours, whatever the situation may be. So maybe you just have the fear of like driving on a highway, but you're comfortable driving anywhere else. Even just beginning to visualize and feeling comfortable with visualization of driving down the highway, that is a ways away from how you used to feel, you know? So I don't like comparing my journey to anyone else's, but I will compare it and just see how much I've grown from my past self and offer just kindness to my past self and to my present self as I keep on preparing to step into the greatest version of myself. You know what I mean? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and turn on your post notification bell so you're notified every single time that I post. With that being said, I hope you all live your best life. Peace, love, and light to you all.